So in this final chapter, we're gonna cover how to present and showcase our animations in the nicest way possible without going too crazy, you know, with like going Arnold or P-Rai or stuff like that. So Maya has the viewpoint 2.0, which is really nice. With a few settings and a few lights, we can get a very decent result that we can use to showcase the animations, not just in a, you know, standard render like this, and give them a bit more flair. So if we go to the render 2.0, two things I really like to always use is the ambient occlusion. As you can see, it already gives us a lot more volume in the character. And because it's just for the final render, go with the maximum samples and the anti-aliasing. And if we get closer here and we look at the edges, when we activated this, it softened quite a bit. So that's already like a good 2 steps. So once we have those two, the next step obviously is lighting. And obviously if we turn on the lights, there's nothing because we have none on the scene. But for this, I usually like to do one of these two approaches I'm going to show you. One is the 3-point light setup that you can Google, and there's tons of documentation. And basically it's like three main lights, one key, which is the main one fill, and one back or rim light, which is going to give us this really nice, you know, rim on all the character. So I'm going to follow this exact same setup. And if we come here, I'm going to hide the light first. I did this same setup on the scene. So we had our key light here, fill, and the back or rim light. So we're gonna do is like quickly showcase each of them. So the key light, as you can see here, and the good thing is that you can come in here into key shape and play with the value, so you can see, you know, what it's doing, change a bit the color temperature, you know, if we more like warmth color, stuff like that. Then we add our fill light in here, you know, already feels like the character is more illuminated, and the nice rim light at the end. And you can play a bit with them. I like to use directional lights in Maya. You come here, directional light, because you just need to worry about where they are aiming for. So just with the rotation, you don't need to worry. You can place them wherever you want on the screen. So that's very nice. Yeah, this is one of the super easy setups. You know, you can as well create a nice plane. And for the plane, we can change a bit the shader. So we can make it a bit darker, so it doesn't stand out that much. You know, so this is like a quick setup that we can use for lighting, and it gives like a pretty nice results. And the other setup we can use is the using a direction light and environment sky dome. That for that you come here to Arnold lights, sky dome light, and what does that is, if we come in here in color, you just need to download a HDRI, and there's plenty free ones on the internet, and you use that, you know, as a to light the entire scene. And if we turn on this light, as you can see, it gives a like really nice result. And I'm gonna show you quickly the sky dome here. You see, creates like a dome. You put the HDRI, and yeah, and just with that you can rotate. You know, you can play with the exposure and stuff like that, and then you just like hide so we don't see it. Like here, lights, camera, lights off, and as you can see, it's pretty decent result. If you remove all while we activate it, you know, it's almost like night and day. So let's get this back. Ambient occlusion and anti-aliasing. You see, and just with these 3 steps, you know, the ambient occlusion, the anti-aliasing, and a basic lighting setup, we already had like a really nice presentation for our character. So once we had this, the other thing we had to do is set up a camera. So instead of using just the viewport, I like to kind of like set a new camera always and try to find a nice angle. So as this is a work cycle, skip it central, something like that. You can use this nice grid, so you can check, you know, if you are perfectly aligned, if the character is centered, and stuff like that. So you can like frame nicely your composition. And once you have this, and you have the character, one of the things I like to do, especially for cycles, is if we go here to the mesh, just this one. So if you select everything and you go edit and duplicate special, what it does is like create a duplicate of the mesh in a group, which is this one, and that group it's like an instance, so it has the same animation. So what you can do is you come in here and you can use it to create like a duplicate, and now you have two characters. So one of the options with this is like you could create one front and one side cycle, and you could put something like this. You make sure the composition is center, and there you go, something like that. Another option, for example, is like, oh, you know what, I want like 3 different options. So we go back, duplicate special, and we show maybe this one like this, and this one more of the profile. So we select the camera, we center, X back to 0, and the rotation, like that. And now we have like 3 characters we can play to make sure, they are all the same distance between each other. And as you can see, just with these few tips, setting the camera, like that, we can check how it's going to be the framing. The presentation looks already like night and day compared to what we had before. So this is what I like to do when it comes to especially cycle. This is the walk cycle. I have as well here the run cycle that I'm gonna show you, and it's literally the same approach as you can see. And we have the 3 cycles in here. Yeah, just with this, the render looks way nicer. So yeah, feel free to play around. With the duplicate special, it's really cool because you have kind of different like characters. So you can showcase the side view, the front view, more 3/4, and play around with different layouts. Once we have that for cycle, the other thing is the attack. So the attack is obviously not a cycle. So what we want is, in this case, because it's kind of like a simple attack, I don't want to go too crazy with the camera. So what I did is just like create a basic motion that follows the character. So in this case, I like just start. So breaking down the camera, it moves together with the character forward, as you can see. So we always keep this nice third of the screen for the character. When it comes to composition, one of the nice rules to follow is the rule of thirds. So you can divide the screen in 2/3, and if you place the character in one of those thirds, it's gonna always like be more appealing and pleasant to see. So let's remove this. So we have the character in that side, which is good. And then, as I said, the camera moves a bit down. What it does, as you can see, is like just moves around a bit with the character. So what it is like, almost, in this case, we want the character to lead the motion. So what I'm doing is, when the character goes down, the camera then starts to go down a bit, and then when the character, as you can see, start going up, then the camera start like following a bit, so it goes a bit up, hold a bit in the position. When the character drops here, boom, it drops as well. And if let's open the graph editor. So I picked the camera because I have it in a layer, that's why I have keys and everything, but you don't need that much. But as you can see here, the up and down is literally a very subtle. Let's go back to the camera. It goes down with the character, and then when the character is slightly going up, but it's when the character takes off. It's like when the camera follows. And then I like always very subtle, but to add a bit of camera shake. Boom, here, when the character has the impact. It's very subtle, but also help like, enhancing that feeling. And then another things I like to do is like, if you don't want to get too complicated with cameras, it's better to have a nice composition and keep it still, and that's gonna work amazing. If you want to play a bit, for example, another bit of motion like this, as you can see, add a bit of residual motion. So it's never like completely static. There's always like a bit of very subtle up and down motion, and that's gonna help a bit like keeping the camera alive and not feel rigid. Same on the other axis. There's a bit like very smooth waves with the translation of the camera. One of the things here I just baked it, but for example, if you had the camera, what it did originally was to do the shake in a layer. So what you can do is like you select your camera, you create a layer, and then same as we saw with the secondary motion for the plates. You can do the same. You can add some shake, and then you can play with the weight of the layer, and that way it's like you don't have to mess up with your original camera, and you can get like really nice result and experiment. Oh, maybe a bit more shake, maybe a bit more subtle, until you get something that you like. And one more thing I wanted to mention as well for presentation is from the same Kyle that they got the rig. He has a really nice motion trail script that you can get as well, and it's really good because just adding a bit of trail, you can see nothing crazy, just a tiny bit, especially during the impact, to get the feel is gonna like enhance even more your slashes, of your impact. There's packs of VFX as well out there, or you can play around with primitives here in Maya and with the shaders, with the incandescence, the transparency and stuff. Even if it's a tiny bit, that's gonna as well help, like especially if you're doing magic attacks or some kind of crazy impact, it's gonna always help to sell the motion. And yeah, and just with those tips, as you can see here, already the character and the animation itself, like it looks way nicer, and this is a pretty decent state at the moment to just like render, and then you can use it for your demo reel or for post it anywhere. But yeah, those are the few tips and tricks I like to use for rendering the characters. As you can see, there's not much. It's just a few touches and the lighting, some the viewport render, and then set up a very basic camera, even if it's a static camera, just to have like a nice composition, so it looks more appealing and nicer. And that's it. With this, we complete the workshop, covering the gameplay animation fundamentals, with the run cycle, walk cycle, the tag, and secondary dynamics, presentation and stuff. So yeah, I hope you really enjoy this, and yeah, thank you so much. Bye bye.